Well, hey there, how's it going? This is gonna be a fun video. I have another test video, scientific test video, really. This video will truly be the study of science in terms of what I'll be doing. So, long story short, I've just had a crazy idea. And, you know, since the EcoBoost Mustangs have problems with the factory intercoolers, you know, I've been trying to think of ways to improve the efficiency of the factory intercooler, you know, without actually having to change it out for an aftermarket one. So, you know, I've just conjured up so many different ideas in my mind. But in this video, I want to test a theory, an idea to help the efficiency of the factory intercooler by using a ceramic coating on the intercooler itself. So we're going to go ahead and test that theory in this video and see if that really does work. All right, I know you got to be saying, oh, this is just ridiculous. There's no way that's going to work. Well, let me explain the thought process behind all of it. So we're going to get really nerdy just for a minute. And I'm going to explain the best way I understand, because I am by no means a genius, an expert on physics, thermodynamics, or any of the sort. I'm just an everyday Joe Schmo who enjoys a little bit of nerdery every now and again. So we're going to start off with this. So this is a Chemical Guys product. It's hydrocharged. It is a true ceramic coating. It does contain silica, as you can see right there. And silica, or SiO2, is its elemental abbreviation, is what's referred as a semiconductor. So what that means is inherently it's not thermally conductive or electrically conductive. Semiconductors, when exposed to heat, can become or increase the thermal and electrical conductivity of the material, but I would assume that would take pretty extreme heat to do that. Silica, as it is pretty much a neutral material, so it can be considered as an insulator or an isolator because it's pretty much neutral. It's not really conductive either way. So therefore, it can't be hot, it can't be cold. It's kind of just a neutral thing. So with that out of the way, that's not really the point of using something like that to help with thermal efficiency, since it's not really inherently makes any difference. The idea is because when silica hardens and cures, it creates a very slick, smooth surface. This is where the theory really comes into play. So what I have done is I've already sprayed all of the intercooler fins throughout the whole intercooler with that stuff. And it's been sitting for about 24 hours, so everything inside should be fully hardened. I'm hoping that thin layer of silica creates a nice, hard, slick barrier on all the fins within the intercooler. Now you gotta remember, those fins, even though they're very thin, they're metal. So under a microscope, metal is very porous. So as air travels through it, you have to wonder, if it's traveling through it and it's, you know, rubbing up against that porous material, well, that creates friction. What does friction do? It creates heat. So therefore it lowers the efficiency, because as the air is passing through, in theory, it's also creating heat as it's taking away the heat inside. So I hope that spraying that with the ceramic coating and creating that little thin barrier of silica on all of the fins creates less surface tension. Less surface tension will create less friction as the air passes through it. So the air will be more efficient as it passes through the intercooler, not creating additional friction and heat, but taking away the heat in the intercooler, since silica is not an insulator or an isolator, it's neutral. So that is the thought process. So that's what I want to test. And by coating everything in a thin layer of silica, will that help the efficiency of the air passing through it and help keep intake temps lower on the factory intercooler? So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get in the car. We're going to go test it out, and we're going to get a data log so we can later analyze it on the computer and see exactly what the intake temps are doing under a pool. And we're going to compare that to a run I've done before I did this and see how the intake temps compare. We'll draw a conclusion from that point. So let's go ahead and get in the car and see what we got. All right, so now that we're in the car, I've been driving around just a few minutes here because I want to get as close to the run that I'm comparing to is possible. That run, it was a very, very hot day. It was about 6 degrees hotter than it currently is. And the car was heat soaked because I was doing some testing. And, you know, I want to be, you know, I want to make sure I give this as apples to apples comparison as possible without too many variables. So right now I'm just kind of cruising around, letting the car get hot. I want the intercooler to get hot because this is going to test if it increases its efficiency, even when heat soaked. That's the biggest problem with these cars. So right now, cruising, intake temps post intercooler are 107 degrees. Ambient temp outside is 91, and temps at the filter is 94. So that's not terrible. That's about what the intercooler does. You know, that's not really anything that has changed so far. Now under some throttle, I'm going to see exactly what they drop down to. Just some cruising at highway speeds. So this is just normal driving. This is nothing crazy. But the speed limit on this road is pretty much highway speeds. So we're gonna see just cruising if temps drop or not. So I ended up getting caught at the light back there, so the intake temps did rise a little bit as the car was sitting. So our base temperature now is 111 degrees. We're just cruising at the speed limit here, trying to see if they dropped any under normal driving as air just passes through the intercooler. Now mind you, it's hot air, 91 degrees, so the best I ever see this intercooler ever doing is to at least ambient temperature, best case scenario. So we're gonna roll into it. Oh wow, actually just cruising, I just looked up, I just seen here on my X4, temps dropped on their own, 109 degrees. So we're gonna roll into it, give it some boost, let some air pass through the intercooler, see if they drop. 107. And now they're starting to go up to 109 as hot turbo air passes through it. But it's staying around there, 111, 109. It's not really going past that. That's not bad. I don't think that's enough of an improvement to justify a actual change. I feel like that's negligible. But what we're gonna do now is we're gonna turn around where I can do a nice long pull. And I'm gonna do the same type of pull I did in that video so we can compare as accurate as possible. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, collect the data log from that run, and I'll compare that to the original run once we get back to the house. But so far, I don't see enough of a change to say that there really is a difference. I mean, the temps seem to be slightly better than they were, but it's also a little bit cooler outside too. So, like I said, not enough of a change to really say there is a difference or not. About ready to do my pull here. Go ahead, activate my log. I don't see that there will be any difference. The intake temps quickly rose to over 130 degrees on that pull. That sucks. So as far as things look now, there is definitely no improvement in my little test here. So anyways, let me get back home. I'll load the data log into the computer. We'll pick the rest of the video up there. All right, so we're back home and I just loaded up the data log into the laptop here. So let's go ahead and see what actually happened. Now, at first glance, without comparing this directly to the previous data log, some interesting things I already see. Even though the temp did rise, it looks like it took it just a little bit longer to do so. But we'll go ahead and compare it to the original run anyway, just for an accurate comparison. So let's go ahead and look on the screen here. This is the data log, and these are really the only parameters that matter. We only care about post intercooler intake temps. That's this jagged blue line right here. And this other line here is RPM. So we have reference of when the car started, when the car ended.
So we started off at 2800 RPMs and held it all the way up to 6,600, just a little over 6,600 RPM. So the interesting part is the intake temps didn't start rising until right here. So right here would be at 4,400 RPM, they start rising. So they start off this kind of flat line here at 113 degrees post intercooler temps, and they start rising here. So 114, 116. So obviously, as the turbo does its thing, it's compressing the air, creating heat, and the intercooler is not happy about it. I'm sure it's a lot better than if there was no intercooler, but not what we'd like to see in terms of performance. So as you can see, mid-run, as it gets about right here, it's at 125 degrees post-intercooler, man. That sucks. And what RPM would that be at? So 5,500 RPM. So we're almost at the end of the run. And at the end of the run, temps hit a max of a scorching 143 degrees post intercooler temps. Yeah, that sucks. That really does. I mean, that's not terrible in the grand scheme of things, because I think, even supercharged cars get hotter than that. Realistically, we want that to be around as close to ambient as possible. That's when you got a good intercooler. These are very subpar intercoolers. They are just enough to cover the car in factory form, and modified, they definitely do not hold up as well as they should. With all that said, I'm going to go ahead and close this out. We're going to take a look at the other data log. Now, unfortunately, this is as close as I can provide with as being accurate as possible. Now, one thing to keep in mind is on this day, during this run, it was hotter outside by 6 degrees. So that easily could have played a lot of a part in the difference here. But one thing I noticed already, which is kind of interesting, is something like I said, I mentioned it right off the bat, seeing the data log we just took, is it looked like it took a little bit longer for the intercooler to start rising in temperature than it did on this run. Also, that could be because it's cooler outside today. It ain't by much, but cooler is cooler, so once again, this run starts about the same, a little bit higher in RPM, 3,200, and goes all the way up to 6,600. And our intake temps start at, right here, to start at 109 degrees, so to start lower, it was lower to start with, 109. And right here, soon, they quickly just nudged up to 111. That's pretty much where we started with the run we just did, and they start going up from there. But it's the change is really drastic here. So we have about right here, we're already hitting 120 degrees, and then on this run we get a maximum of 149 degrees. That is hot. Wow. Really hot. But once again, this day it was a lot hotter, and this was actually doing back-to-back runs for another test. So I would say that's pretty much in line with what was going on that day. I can't say that, there is a difference between that run max temp and the one we just did, but considering the variables, I think that's negligible. So overall, it looks like there's no difference whatsoever, quite honestly. Just comparing these two logs side by side, I'll put them here up on the screen and put them together, and you can see, it's pretty much the same story either way you slice it. And, hey, that's what this is all about. That's the study of science. You create a theory, you have a hypothesis, you go and test the theory, and see if you can obtain the results. Obviously, we were not able to obtain the results that would play in favor of the theory. Okay, so real quick, some things that I have thought about as I was finishing up this video is, First and foremost, even though the Chemical Guys HydroCharge is a true ceramic spray, it's not like a super high-end product. So the amount of silica present in that product could be a lot less than like really high-end ceramic coatings. Therefore, even spraying the intercooler with that, the amount of silica actually making its way on there, probably could have been a reason why we haven't seen big changes, or could just because it doesn't work. Maybe with a super high-end ceramic coating that has a lot of silica in it, maybe there would have been a change. I don't know. So I just wanted to bring that up before I finish this video. Also, something I want to say before I finish the video is, while I was driving back home from that run, I did notice that the post-intercooler temps dropped back down to between 107 and 109 degrees normal driving. So they recovered really quick. I don't really know if that was any difference or not, but I think it's worth mentioning nonetheless. So that's it for this little cut-in. Let's wrap up the rest of the video. Therefore, we can rule this one out that no, ceramic coating your intercooler does not increase its thermal efficiency whatsoever. I'm pretty sure most people would have just automatically knew that straight from the beginning of this video. But then what would the fun of that be? Anyway, I think that's going to wrap it up here for this video. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. Share with everyone you know if you want to see more content like this and you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel. Keep a lookout for the next true car enthusiast video.